back to Good Morning Enablement. Thank you to our viewers and subscribers and to new people who join the channel. We're going to break down practical strategies for smarter sales enablement and go-to-market execution. I'm your host today, Maria White, co-founder of Good Morning Enablement and CEO of Enablement Dojo. Today, we're digging into one of the most important and most underestimated parts of sales kickoff planning, and that is building your content calendar. Now, you may think that you don't need one, but trust me, you do. And if you've ever sat through any sales kickoff that felt rushed, repetitive, or just totally off message, chances are it wasn't the speakers, it was the calendar behind the scenes that didn't help everybody prepare for success. Now, I'm really excited again. I told you we would meet with her again. Joining me today is, again, someone who's built and delivered sales kickoffs content for some of the most recognized names in technology. I've worked with her, Tara Torkelson, and she has led content and delivery for Hewlett-Packard, HPE, ServiceNow, Twilio, and Cornerstone on Demand. So, Tara, next time I might not have to give you the big introduction because hopefully they'll all get to know you really well. So welcome to this episode on the content calendar.
Thanks so much, Maria. I'm really excited to be here. You know, SCO really is one of my favorite times of the year, but getting the content calendar right, that's really where all the magic starts.
Yeah. And Tara, let's start with the why a content calendar matters. So it's more than just a logical tool. So can you kind of open that up for us?
Absolutely. It's much more than a tool, as you said. The content calendar really is your strategic blueprint. This is what's going to ensure that your message builds logically over time, that it aligns to all the business priorities. And the calendar is what actually supports how reps learn and retain. You know, without having one of those, you really end up cramming too much in. You're going to repeat themes, or even worse, you're going to leave out something really critical. I always say, SCO is never just a 2-day or 3-day event. You have to look at it as your launch pad for the entire year. If you want to have alignment across your whole organization and clarity on day one of execution, the calendar is where all that starts.
I couldn't agree with you more. I've been there with you and understand, what that means to do that right. Now, for our viewers and our listeners, what goes into a great sales kickoff content calendar? Let's really talk about the core building blocks and what should be in any sales kickoff calendar. Help us out with that, Tara.
Absolutely. It's really important that you start with your top level business objectives. What do you want your teams to know? What do you want them to believe? And what do you want them to do by the end of SCO? From there, that's where you start to build out your content pillars. And these are usually things like the executive vision and priorities, product or roadmap updates, updated messaging or positioning. You're going to look at customer success stories, skills-based sales training, go to marketplace and key initiatives. And also don't forget about enablement on those tools and processes. Now, when you sequence it, don't throw reps into product features on hour one. Start with the why, your strategy, your narrative, and then you can guide them into the how.
And mixing up delivery formats is part of that, right?
Absolutely. You really need to alternate between those keynotes, panels, workshops, having breakout sessions, and role plays. Different formats drive engagement, and they also help reinforce your message in a variety of different ways.
And I seem to remember one calendar, I'll put perspective for everybody, which was for 3 global virtual kickoffs. I think it was 22 or 21. And that content calendar must have had, 1,000 rows, to put it in perspective. We didn't actually do that one in Monday or the Airtable at that time. That was later. But yeah, that was a huge document. You must have some tips for building and managing, the calendar. So let's talk about that execution. What are your best practices for building and managing, the calendar itself, Tara?
Yeah, absolutely. And some of these are from hard-learned lessons, but here's what I recommend. Number 1, start early. Your best speakers really need time to build high-quality content. You don't want to be rushing them. You also want to, what I say, time box sessions. Remember, less is always more. You want impact, but not overload. Really important to set content deadlines, deadlines for outline, for draft, and for final review. This really helps avoid the chaos the week before SCO, which tends to be a little crazy anyways. Next, you really have to plan for reinforcement. Teach the concept, but then reinforce it later. Don't let the key message drop after just one session. It's also super important to collaborate cross-functionally. This isn't just sales. Product marketing, customer success, pre-sales, everyone has a stake in the message.
Absolutely, Tara. And I love that. The point about reinforcement is such a critical piece. It's not just what you say, it's how often and in what ways you say it.
Yeah, exactly. One keynote is not going to change behavior, but a keynote that's followed up by a breakout and then maybe a team workshop, that might help change the behavior. Again, it's repetition and reinforcement in a variety of different ways.
Tara, thank you so very much. Now, I'm just going to kind of try and give some key takeaways as I wrap this up, because we're just trying to do short, concise little blocks to help people with every element of building and planning a sales kickoff. So for people listening who are in the middle of planning or about to start, Tara, what is that, the first key takeaway here with regards to the content calendar?
I always say, think of your content calendar as your SCO's overall story arc. Start with your objectives. Then you can start to build a sequence of content that tells that story clearly and effectively. Make sure you're varying your formats. Really important to avoid overload. And make sure there's a plan to reinforce those key messages.
Absolutely. And, when the calendar works, the event feels intentional and not busy. Tara, I just want to kind of give a little hint. You mentioned earlier in the content calendar about giving people time to build that content. And, for example, there can sometimes be up to 3 reviews and simulations of that content to make it work. This is all the stuff that the sellers or the people experiencing it don't see. So I just wanted to underline that, make it feel intentional by giving the people involved in creating the content through your calendar the space and the time to give their best for it.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is where a great calendar is really going to help bring that focus. It's going to ensure you have that alignment and also helps you plan to bring the energy to every single session. Your reps will walk away knowing exactly how to execute and everyone's going to be aligned.
Absolutely. Well, Tara, that's a wrap on this particular episode of Sales Kickoff Strategy and Planning, building a content calendar. So a huge thanks again to you, Tara, for joining us and sharing your expertise. This was packed with takeaways.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you so much for having me, Maria. I'm always happy to help teams start building smarter SCOs.
Or smarter sales kickoffs, if you like.
Yes,
so one of the things that sorry, Tara and I have a lovely long relationship, so I'm allowed to say that. If this helped you get a clearer picture of how to build your content calendar, please share it with your planning team, your enablement team, or anyone contributing this year. It takes a lot of people involved to make the sales kickoff successful, which is behind the curtains, and your sellers don't normally see that. But this is all of that stuff behind. Listen, stay tuned. There's way more sales kickoff planning insights are coming your way. Thank you for tuning into Good Morning Enablement. Again, if this episode helped you get a clearer picture on how to build your content calendar, share it with someone and help them to take massive action and make an impact. Now, if you're deep in sales kickoff prep right now, we're sorry for taking up your time. No, but seriously, stay tuned. And we've got more episodes coming to help you plan smarter, drive alignment, and deliver real impact. It would be remiss of me not to say, if you need help bringing your sales content to life, whether it's strategy, planning, storytelling, or delivering, our team in my organization, Enablement Dojo, is here to help you build a sales kickoff that will stick and create that impact that you're looking for. So drop us a line at hello@enablementdojo.com and we would love to partner with you. Once again, until next time, go crush those Q4 numbers. And remember, this is Good Morning Enablement. Have a great day. Thanks again, Tara.
You're welcome. Bye.